When it came out, Spider-Man 3 was much maligned. It was already going to be hard to make a movie that came close to the quality of the much beloved Spider-Man 2, and many people felt that the third entry in Sam Raimi's series didn't come close. There were too many villains, too much studio interference, and too much goofy shit that the sequel felt like a disappointment. However, with the passage of time and the influx of crappy, low effort comic book movies that have come out in the last few years, in my opinion, Spider-Man 3 deserves a rewatch and a rethinking of its original reviews. To me, Spider-Man 3 rocks for a variety of reasons we'll get into in this video. Before we do that, I just ask that you like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I love making these videos, and someday it would be awesome to maybe do this for some type of living. And simply subscribing for free, liking, and sharing can help me do that. Thank you.
You can also go ahead and perhaps think about subscribing to my Patreon. If you are interested, you can stick around to the end of the video.
First and foremost, I think to fairly judge this movie some 17 years later, we have to go through what doesn't work before we get into what does. Simply put, the fairest reason for someone to dislike this movie is that it puts you through so much narrative and thematic whiplash throughout the movie, and it's almost immediately right off the bat. This movie was the victim of one Avi Arad, who decided to put his little grubby hands into the production of this movie and force Sam Raimi to include the black suit and Venom when Raimi and company already had a setup, plot, and narrative arc they were trying to complete. At the end of Spider-Man 2, Harry's turn into the new Goblin is fully set up for him to be in this movie for like 5 minutes before he gets amnesia, because Raimi had to juggle so many different plots with the inclusion of the symbiote. Because of this, the Sandman plot is also not fully fleshed out, which means this movie goes from a movie about Peter and Harry and the consequences of anger and revenge to a movie about Peter and Sandman and the topic of regret and moving on to a movie about Mary Jane and Peter's issues and being there for each other to a movie about Peter and this dumb fucking thing. There's so many story threads and so many plot points that it's easy to be confused by which one is happening, why, and how it connects to the larger story. This is all the more disappointing because each of these villains and stories all have their moments. The fight with Harry is awesome and genuinely exciting. The stuff with Sandman is emotional. Mary Jane gets to be a more fleshed out character, and Venom is an exciting and popular character to include, even if he clearly isn't a character Raimi cares for. There's just too many plot threads that Raimi has to juggle, and it creates a movie that can be sometimes hard to keep up with. Things just don't flow as well as they do in the last two Spider-Man movies, and simply put, it's Avi's fault. You son of a bitch, you could have had it all. Also, Gwen Stacy is in this movie, and Dr. Connors and the landlord shows up for a second, and like Bernard chooses now to tell Harry that Spider-Man didn't kill his father. Also, sorry, but like Spider-Man could have clearly killed Norman with his glider. Bernard's little statement could be easily misstated and misunderstood that Peter just took the fucking thing and turned it against Norman. It doesn't, whatever. I would get if Harry didn't believe him. I don't know why he does. Also, simply put, Peter's turn to the dark side I think is okay, but it crosses the line a little too much when he, trigger warning, hits Mary Jane in the bar. You can have him totally descend into darkness, but he should still never hit her. He can come close, which gets him to stop, but actually hitting her is just kind of hard to watch, and it's completely out of character even for Dark Peter. And that's it for the stuff I 100% dislike. Let's get into the stuff that works. Simply put, this is one of the funniest superhero movies I've ever seen, whether intentionally or not. Obviously, Bully Maguire is the big meme from this, and deservedly so. I actually think that this actually fits this version of Peter. This version of Peter is super dorky, so it makes so much more sense that when he turns the dark side and gets cooler or whatever, the shit he still does is really dorky. The dancing when he goes out and gets a new wardrobe is obviously iconic as well, so much so that people literally repeat these dance moves in real life, including yours truly. This is a performance and a character choice that is so out of left field and weird, but is so memorable that it makes me sad that no one is doing it like this anymore. For the most part, all of these comic book characters are played pretty safely, and similarly, Guardians and Robert Pattinson's Batman excluded. So this is genuinely fun to go back and watch, and it makes me like the film for embracing the weird and goofy parts of Spider-Man even more. There's some other funny moments and performances throughout too. The scene in the diner with Harry when he's asked how the pie is and he goes so good is super funny, and it's filled with Raimi charm that I can't help but burst out laughing every time. Once again, the random extras throughout the film are giving the performances of the century with line reads that are just Hall of Fame material. It's been said before, but the Daily Bugle scenes, and J.K. Simmons in particular, are incredible. These are some of the funniest scenes not only in superhero history, but in movie history. The dialogue is so quick, so witty, and there are just so many jokes in such a short amount of time. It really does feel like they brought in Larry David or Mitch Hurwitz to write these scenes across all the films because it's just so different from the rest of the movie's dialogue. I probably, besides the train scene, go back and watch the Daily Bugle scenes out of these movies the most, and Spider-Man 3 gives us some of the best examples. Moving on, the action in this movie is just incredible. While a bunch of other aspects of the movie had to be cut out or cut short, the action was one thing Raimi wouldn't budge on, and he puts 110% effort into these scenes to really make them hit hard. The fight with Harry, the crane scene, the fight with Sandman, the climax, just all amazing. The added conflict during the fight with Harry with the ring being thrown about and at risk of being lost is really great. And it's just so Spider-Man. I like that with the crane scene, the audio becomes muted, which makes it all that much more suspenseful, even though the scene is only a minute or so, if that. The music in the Sandman fight is especially incredible, with it kind of sounding like a pulpy boxing fight. And there's so much verticality and kinetic energy, you can't help but feel adrenaline throughout it. Then the climax is just so fun and filled with so many little moments, like Harry coming in last second. And again, there's just so much kinetic energy. I also like this line where Harry and Peter are going after Mary Jane, who's falling, and Harry tells him to hang on, and Peter goes, like, you're fucking Spider-Man, bro. Your feet are sticky. While some aspects of these characters are weird or feel rushed, I think there are some actual complexities happening in this movie that really work or should be appreciated more all this time later. I actually think Eddie Brock is good in this movie. He's kind of barely in it, and his Venom is definitely a little rushed. I think there's some good similarities in his story with Peter that work well. And Topher Grace's slimy, dorky Brock works well for this version of Peter, who's also a little dorky. I think it's kind of cool how he uses Peter's whole "I want to marry this girl I'm dating" storyline as a way to cozy up to JJ, whether he's being honest or not. I think if Eddie had gotten more time to develop, we would have seen more similarities or intricacies in the two, more reflections, and that would have played into the whole Venom being evil Spider-Man thing a lot better. Again, because he was forced into the film, his character is unfortunate, but it's better than most people give it credit for. I used to think Peter was far too punchable in this movie. Like, he just starts off the film being way too happy. But now, after years of the comics doing everything in their power to take away anything good from Peter's life, it now feels like a nice change of pace all these years later. It's also a nice dichotomy for him and Mary Jane, whose life isn't going as swimmingly as she gets fired from the show she's in, which, like, what a bunch of idiots these guys are. Did you guys, like, not sit in the back when she was rehearsing? I don't think it's Mary Jane who should get fired. It's these guys. It's a nice switch up from Spider-Man 2, and if the movie had had less plot threads, some sort of storyline about Peter not having more time for her could be great, and you can see the beginnings of that here. I'm gonna say it. I don't think the Sandman retcon is all that bad. I get the anger of being told years later he was the one who killed Uncle Ben, and that this is another example of a Spider-Man villain being someone close to Spider-Man, but I think it's saved by Sandman's final monologue, which is based around the theme of forgiveness, which really should have been the major theme of the whole movie. This is just really well written, emotional, and it ends the trilogy on a nice note of finality in terms of the Uncle Ben plot. And then later on, we see the idea of forgiveness continued when Mary Jane and Peter have that dance. If we never get a proper Raimi Spider-Man 4, this is a nice way to wrap up things on a sweet, sentimental note. Oh, what else do I like? I like the opening credits. Just like Spider-Man 2, it does a good job of summarizing the plot points up to this point. And while we don't get the same art we did from Alex Ross, it still is an interesting way to open up the movie. We get some foreshadowing, and the music is incredible again. Music really across the movie is awesome, even with it not being Danny Elfman. Christopher Young does a really nice job paying homage to Elfman and keeping up the general feel of his music while also creating some really great new pieces. The fact that Raimi has the news called Mary Jane a former Broadway star makes me giggle for some reason. Like, you're just really throwing salt on the wound. I think it's also funny how Peter wants to get married. Like, he's still living in this piece of shit apartment. Like, dude really just wants that tax break, I guess. Bruce Campbell makes another great cameo. Really wish we would have gotten to see him as Mysterio, as that would have been the ultimate payoff. Rosemary Harris is still good. I think she gets a little too much hate because she's super preachy, or maybe I think everyone is just me misremembering a Doug Walker observation from forever ago. But at least you can say she is preachy. Like, that's a real characteristic, something you can say she is. You can't do that with Sally Field or Marissa Tomei. Also, Eddie Brock is the ultimate hater. All in all, I think Spider-Man 3 deserves your rewatch. It's made with so much effort, so much love, so much Raimi charm that while it's a shame interfered with it, it's still 100 times more entertaining than most of the studio interfered superhero films that we get nowadays. I mean, we will never get a character like Bully Maguire again. I don't know if we could handle one. I think the world might explode, but it's just the fact that we are not getting a goofy movie like this again. Spider-Man 3 rocks, and it deserves your time. Thanks for watching. Please, if you like this video, give this a like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, Andrew here. Just wanting to pop in and talk about the launch of my Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/droopy and check out some of the tiers that I have set up for you guys. But I just wanted to come in and talk about it a little bit while I had the chance. Basically, I just decided to start this Patreon. We hit 1,000 subscribers. Once again, thank you so much for that. But here's the thing. A lot of the video work that I do, a lot of the videos that I make get demonetized, and now my whole channel is demonetized because apparently YouTube doesn't know what fair use is. So I just wanted to pop in and just talk about some of the tiers you can check out. Obviously, if you can't give anything, totally get it, but I still wanted to at least start this just in case anybody out there was interested. So basically at $1 a month, I write you a letter, which gives you access to blog posts and updates and a thank you note each month. And then at $3, you get a thank you credit at the end of every new video. You can vote on my next video, and then everything in the $1 tier. And then $5, you get an exclusive video on a topic that the audience chooses every month. And then you get a Q&A session and everything in the previous tiers. So $5 tier, it's my new video that I post to YouTube. And then $10, it is the tier. It is the video that I post just exclusively to you on Patreon. So if you're interested, please head over there, check it out. Let me know what you think. Feel free to reach out and tell me what I should change, what I should add, what I should take away, all that good stuff. But I really appreciate it. It doesn't look like I'll ever be able to get monetized on YouTube, at least not for the foreseeable future. So this could really help me out. So I really appreciate it. And if you're able to, thank you so much. If you can't, just keep watching my videos. You know, they're free. They're there for you. They're there to entertain you. And I appreciate you either way. All right. Thank you. Bye.